Lashke, Spain, Yates, and Ryan. Today, a flinch. A fight. The Acuna Jr. takeover. And Jalen Ramsey truth bomb. All your quarterbacks stink. Let's go around the horn.
Shout out to
Jalen Ramsey's quarterback is Brett.
It's Around the Horn, the show of competitive banter. Here's Tony Reali.
We'll get to it in a second. Ben Roethlisberger, concussion protocol. Came from a hit on a goal line play drill where he was rolling out, ran into one of his own linemen and a linebacker. A miscommunication was how it was reported. Clinton, how big a deal is that, knowing we're still more than 3 weeks away from week 1? And do you question Roethlisberger even being in a position to take a hit in practice? It's
a huge deal as far as I'm concerned. As much as it pains me to say this, because me and this guy go way back, if you look around the corner and you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you can see the end of the Ben Roethlisberger era. There's the age element. There's the fact that he's talked about trying to, considering retirement. There's the fact that they drafted Mason Rudolph, and that did not make Benjamin very happy because he had to think about it himself. The fact that he's now concussed, whether or not they want to deal with it, whether or not they like it or not, they've got to do something going forward. As for whether or not he should have been in that position, absolutely not. You can't have a guy at that age with that many injuries getting anywhere close to a problem in which he's going to be out for the season. 9 out of 10 people probably couldn't name his backup. I didn't know until earlier today. And I'm just saying that if you're the Steelers, this might be it for Benjamin, and I hate to say it.
This might be it. Not knowing anything about the severity of this injury. This season might be it, or this
his third concussion. It's his 15th year in the league. I mean, I'm just saying that the guy is old and the guy gets hit a lot. You've got to really consider what you're doing next at the quarterback position.
Bob Ryan, you want to join in?
I'm not concerned about the future of or immediate future of the Steelers as I am about the long-range future of Ben Roethlisberger, because this is a giant red flag, very, very simply because of this. We have learned definitely that concussions can come after the accumulation of hits. It's the accumulation of hits. Here he is, a guy who has talked in the past about the fact that he's had concussions. If this is all it takes, this is accidental bumping on the field that wasn't even a hit. If this is all it takes to give him and put him in the concussion protocol, then this is a potentially very serious juncture in his life, in his career. Right. Far more important than worrying about whether they're going to win any games. I'm sorry.
It should be said he's in the protocol, which at least on some level demonstrates something is working in the NFL's policy to get guys off the field. Bill Plaschke, where are you on the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger?
Yeah, Clinton. Well, the Steelers were just they didn't do anything wrong. It was an everyday sort of play. Like Bob said, it was a workout play, and that's the scary thing about it. You get a concussion on that, plus the 3 concussions, plus the fact that he'll acknowledge it. How many concussions has he had that he probably hasn't acknowledged? But to be Ben's this legendary tough guy, now that he's actually admitting his mortality, his frailty, I do think that this is on a downward slope here for Ben Roethlisberger. I just think once this happens now in training camp, which you never hear about, this stuff never happens during training camp, and then plus you throw the motorcycle accident he had several years ago, I think, again, this is very tenuous. This is very tenuous ground here.
Sarah Spain?
Yeah, you guys may be right, but none of us were there. And so to say it was a play that was just a training camp play and how do you get concussed on that is to ignore the fact that from the description of it, because of the miscommunication, he didn't seem to be able to stop his fall. So he landed and then slammed his head back. That can very easily cause a concussion. Whether or not it was a play that he got hit on or one where he tripped because of the miscommunication doesn't matter. In the end, he's in the concussion protocol, and this is something Ben Roethlisberger has said in the past will have a bearing on how much longer he plays. So when he says earlier in this offseason, I'll play 4 or 5 years. Maybe not. If he has a concussion, it becomes serious. The other interesting thing to note is that while it seems likely that the timing is good because he won't be playing in this preseason game anyway, and he should be ready for the start of the season, we have seen athletes in the past be in the concussion protocol for much longer than anticipated. It's not something that has a very certain timetable on it.
Okay,
so whether this will affect him going forward, it could be worse.
Being in the concussion protocol, I state again, it does not mean you have a concussion. It means they're continuing to evaluate whether he had a concussion or not. Clinton Yates, anything you want to add up to the horn?
Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger will be a Hall of Famer in the NFL. I just really hope it doesn't end in an ugly situation, sort of like Troy Aikman, where they've got to drag him off because everybody's called him a tough guy his whole career.
We've been horn. We'll move on. Jalen Ramsey. Oh, boy. Jalen Ramsey. Hold on to your butts. He went in on everybody in GQ. Told Clay Skipper, quote, Josh Allen is trash. Quote, he would have picked Lamar Jackson earlier than 32. Quote, Joe Flacco sucks. Quote, what's the Atlanta's quarterback name? I think Matt Ryan's overrated. Quote, Andrew Luck, I don't really think he's that good. And he wasn't done. Roethlisberger, decent at best. Dak Prescott, okay. Eli, I won't say Eli's good. He did say he likes Brady, Rodgers, Mariota, Tyrod Taylor, Derek Carr, and he thinks Deshaun Watson will be an MVP soon. Sarah, we love this. Everybody loves this. But could that much honesty catch up with Jalen Ramsey?
Well, somebody loves it enough to say his nickname should be Yelp because he tried all the quarterbacks and he's going to tell us about them, and I love that. But my issue with this is not that we all think it's enjoyable when someone's honest. I think we can expect honesty and still also expect a bit of a filter, so calling other professional players trash maybe to me stops being quite as funny as the rest of it. Although, again, I'm all here for Jalen Ramsey's cockiness. We've seen it since he got into the league. He's one of the best corners, and he can back it up. The question is, when he's combining this with attacking a reporter just for doing his job, reporting on a fight that happened in camp, is this something that his team is going to care about? As long as he shows up on the field, probably not. But if his play slips at all and they're having to deal with the fallout of him insulting other teams and reporters covering the team, then yeah, I think it could catch up to him.
Bill Plaschke?
No, you know what? I think here's how honesty is. The quarterbacks who he said were good have an 87 passer rating against them. The quarterbacks he said were bad have a 69 passer rating against him. So the stats will prove he was being completely honest in what he was saying. And you know what? As a defensive back, he's kind of one-on-one out there. I got no problem with it. He's walked the walk. He can talk the talk. I have no issue with that at all.
Clint Yates?
My concern is not with the catching up with Jalen Ramsey. My concern is the catching up with his own quarterback, Blake Bortles. If you're going to be out here ripping everybody else across the league, other defenses are going to notice that, and you're going to have to deal with the ramifications of that for your offense. Never mind the fact that your defense is going to have to make up for it when you play the best players in the league.
And he did reference Blake Bortles in the piece, and he said Blake Bortles does what Blake Bortles does. Bob Ryan, what do you think of what Jalen Ramsey did?
Obviously, we have a very interesting young man here who can back it up because after 2 years, he finds himself as an all-pro quarterback. So he's obviously very good, and he's not afraid of whatever the ramifications would be on the field. Clearly not afraid of that. But he does need to get reined in a little bit. I'm sure that as much as we like it, we love the candor, and by the way, the really interesting observations and the phraseology about it all. I'm sure Doug Marrone isn't too happy about it, and I think that there's going to have to be a little conversation that probably has already been held between the head coach of the Jaguars and Mr. Ramsey.
Plaschke, you want to add one last thing?
Yeah, I think the only issue would be there'll be controversy now. Every time they play him, everybody will be looking at the quarterback, looking at him. This will bring a little bit of distraction to the team. But again, if he can back it up, and he's backed it up, I got no problem with it.
Is it distraction or is it attention? You know, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, they surprised people by where they got to in the conference championship game last year. But some attention for the Jaguars isn't going to hurt anybody. You want a last word, Lynn?
Yeah, he said that they don't even play defense against the guy in practice to keep his confidence up. I mean, what are we talking about here with Blake Bortles?
Yeah, that's the one part about it all.
Not at the level that everybody else
That's
is.
the one part of it all. You know, he talked about everybody else's quarterback and he talked about his own, but he was a little bit softer in his grading maybe on his own quarterback. We'll move on. Let's talk baseball and who was in the right and who was in the wrong with the fight last night. Puig upset with himself for missing that pitch. Hundley was upset with Puig for being upset with himself, and they went after each other. Bill, who's in the right, who's in the wrong?
Puig's the one who lost his cool. Puig's the one who threw the punches, who chased down Hundley. Puig was in the wrong. Players, yes, should Hundley have been heckling him? Players heckle other players all the time. The Giants heckle the Dodgers back and forth all the time from the dugout, at first base, on second base, everywhere. And if the players, it's their job to control their emotions and keep it within themselves. Puig again lost it. He's done this so many times. And again, the Giants know how to push his buttons. They pushed his buttons. And so the two ejections, Hundley and Puig, the Giants will take that trade in a heartbeat. So yeah, Puig's the one who was wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously I don't think it's Hundley's place to tell him get back in the box or any of whatever words he might have said to him, but Puig needs to be cool enough to get back into the box and regain his composure and get back to the at-bat. If he wants to yell and throw his bat in the air and catch it, that's fine, right? That's no affront to anybody, and no one should be mad about that. But when they are mad about it, when they do get under his skin, he needs to be more cool about it, especially when you're on a team that has massive World Series aspirations and can't seem to win a darn game.
I'm surprised. 2 against Puig here. Clinton Yates, what did you see last night specifically? I know Puig has the entire resume, the entire history. He was upset he missed the pitch.
Yeah,
that was after.
Bush League on a lot of Bush League on a lot of levels by Hundley. I don't have a problem with Puig doing any of this. I do have an issue with the umpire not getting remotely involved on some level, by the by. But if I'm the Dodgers, what are you doing not having a guy, a get-back coach, or some type of person who gets out there every single time Puig starts to get into this? I mean, they're going back and forth for a good 15, 20 seconds before anybody arrives. They need to figure this out because this is how Puig plays. This is how you get the best out of him. If you're going to have him popping off and getting ejected in games, there's no point in having him out there anyway. Figure out a way to control it so that you can get the best of both worlds and not have these ridiculous brawls all over the shop.
How do you imagine that would go, though, Clinton? You get back coach. You want somebody running on the field to separate the two?
You don't
Once
have
he
to
runs
run.
on the field, that's going to escalate things.
You can walk. Just make sure that he's not out there on an island by himself every single time he gets up.
All right, Bob Ryan, I want your take on this. So we've got Puig upset about a pitch that he fouled off that he wanted to drive into the seats. And then you have Hundley saying get back in the box. And then everything escalates from there. Who's in the right, who's in the wrong?
Nobody comes off looking particularly good here. Hundley, obviously, I think, as Bill said, was clearly knowing the history of Puig, was pushing Puig's button. And, hey, let history record. Puig shoved him. He doesn't have to. All you have to do is tell him to perform an unnatural act and walk away. No, he doesn't do that. He shoves him, and that starts the whole thing. So I'm afraid that on balancing the scale here, it's not balanced. It's that Puig is the one who's more at fault for this whole thing, even though, yeah, you say Hundley should not keep his mouth shut. But he knows what he's doing, I think, because it's Puig. They know it's Puig. They know how he reacts.
Plashke, back in.
Yeah, but Clinton, the Dodgers got out there as fast as they can. It was a lot faster than the way you portrayed it.
I'm talking about base coaches.
George Lombard, in fact, tackled Hundley and kept the fight from escalating. The bottom line is I can't believe also, Clinton, you said it's okay that Puig punched another player and got thrown out of a game in a pennant race. That's not okay.
I didn't say it was okay. What I'm saying is that the guy runs hot. You've got to figure out a way to manage that because otherwise there's no point in having him in the field at all because that is how he energizes his own game, and it works for them.
And Sarah, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, it was like 5 seconds, not 20, first of all. So there wasn't time for the get-back man. There was time for Lombard to step in, which he did. I agree, the official probably could have done something. The umpire probably could have said, all right, guys, back behind the plate. We got to keep this at-bat going. In the end, I'm not blaming Puig for being mad and throwing his bat and catching it. I'm blaming him for when they get together and start yelling for escalating it with the shove. That was the problem.
Right. I mean, it was a shove into a helmet. I mean, what are you really doing? If you're going to throw a punch or one of these shove punches into a helmet, how much damage can you really inflict? Only on your hand. Real quick, Plashke, that's how many in a row for the Dodgers to lose in their last at bat? I mean, they're
four in a row in the last at bat for the first time in 132-year franchise history. The bullpen's in trouble, big trouble.
How does Dave Roberts play this going forward right now with Kenley Jansen where he is?
He just mixes and matches in hopes that Andrew Friedman and Farhan Zaidi find somebody for him, which they should have found a month ago to help shore up their bullpen. They need help. They need the cavalry.
All right, taking a break right here. Buy yourself on the other side.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I should have done this years ago.
Disclaimer, traveling back in time is physically impossible unless you know how to build a functioning time machine. Then by all means, travel 25 years back in time, switch your car insurance to Geico. You could save a bunch of money. While you're there, please prevent your younger self from wearing that sleeveless tuxedo t-shirt, parachute pants, and glitter high tops to your senior prom. And at long last rectify this horrible crime against nature. Geico is absolved of all liability if you destroy the fabric of time and space.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Yourself.
Terrell Pryor. Flinch. Player versus old team went about as well as you would expect in joint practices. Pryor also got into hot water with his coach for telling the media he had surgery on a broken ankle in May. The coach responding with, I feel that he should keep his mouth shut and leave the injuries to me. Todd Bowles. Bill Plashke, buy or sell Terrell Pryor's week?
I can't sell enough. Terrible week. And I think the biggest thing was that the Redskins harassed him. They heckled him. They called him garbage. They fake slapped him. And all of his new teammates have to see this. And they have to wonder, what kind of guy is this that a team so universally hates him? It's not a good look for him. Not a good first impression.
Yeah, I have to agree. Terrible week. And while I don't agree with Bowles saying we like to keep this stuff in-house, which is why I'm telling all of you about it, about him talking about his injury, didn't really agree with that approach. But other than that, I mean, you have to look at the fact his former teammates are harassing him, his current teammates aren't backing him up, and his current coach is mad about him for blabbing his mouth. So clearly he hasn't been doing stuff right for a little while.
Lynn Yates?
Yeah, that's the biggest deal out of all of this. There was a massive brawl at this joint practice 2 days prior, and he gets into it again a couple days later, and nobody is even in the picture when he's getting involved in DJ Springer. That is a huge problem if you're talking about a guy who's actually trying to fit into a new team. I'm not having a good week if I'm Terrell Pryor.
Bob Ryan?
look in the dictionary the word pariah. I think you will see a picture of Terrell Pryor right now. He is absolutely toxic.
Pariah.
For his old team and his new team.
Pariah.
And the only, I mean, I never heard anything like this. Really?
I never heard anything like what you just said, Bob.
Yeah, I don't even know if he knew what he said, but he said it. But it worked for me. I'll give him the points, even if it's coincidental. Real quick. So you mentioned a brawl in your joint practice, Clinton Yates, for Washington and the Jets. This also happened today with San Francisco and Houston. Buy or sell the idea of joint practice, Sarah Spade?
Yeah, I'm still buying it. Just because some idiots get into it doesn't mean it doesn't serve a good purpose. But the premeditated stuff like we saw with Pryor, never a good idea. Don't tell everyone you're going to beat him up before you even get there.
Clinton?
I'll sell it in the Jets-Washington situation because it spilled over into the fans, and those two groups of people started fighting too, which is completely idiotic.
Flashman.
I'm totally buying it. These should be the exhibition games. There should be no NFL exhibition games. They should all be doing the practice against each other. That's the way to do it.
Okay. All right. I'm here for that. And Bob Ryan, you got enough points on your pariah answer. We'll move on. Another thing coming from Washington Jets joint practice, Josh Norman on Sam Darnold. Take a listen.
But doggy, this little kid is not making mistakes. And he's really accurate. So crazy to see that at an early age. Dak had that. Carson has that. He's so far, he's impressed me. And I didn't want him to.
High praise, Sarah Spain. Do you think that's hype, overhype, or purposeful overhype?
I think it's just straight hype. Josh Norman is a pretty plain-spoken guy, whether he's talking superheroes or football. He tells it like it is. He has absolutely no reason to fake hype the guy. I can't think of a single psychological reason that it would hurt this rookie for him to hype him unnecessarily. I think he was just impressed.
Yeah, and it's an interesting juxtaposition with Jalen Ramsey, who year 2 in the league, he's ripping everybody he sees. At this stage, Josh Norman, he likes what he sees, and he's a veteran. He knows good when he sees it. I think he's just calling it how he sees it. Sorry.
Bob Ryan.
Totally buying. I have no reason to think it's anything other than face value here. He's dazzled by this kid because, as Sarah said, what other motivation could he have?
Flashkey?
I'm buying this. You never heard him talk about Kirk Cousins like this, did you? Darnold threw 36 passes in their scrimmage and with no interceptions. I think the Jets coaches have to listen to what this guy's saying. It's different to watch it on film to see a guy who's playing with him. That's a huge endorsement for him to be the starter.
Starting week 1, in your opinion, Bill Platt?
Yes, I think he does. Yes, I'm going
there. All right. Yates?
C.
We'll move on. Buy or sell 3, Ronald Acuna Jr. Tonight he's going for the Major League record for consecutive games, led off with a home run in a row, straight. Last night was 3. Look at the pitch location on that, by the way. In total, 5 straight games with a home run, successively. Clinton, I want to know if you think this is fluky or proof he's a future star MVP. And also, what does the leadoff home run streak mean to you, and what does the home run in a game streak mean to you? Go ahead.
All of this means his namesake, Acuna Matata, no worries. This 20-year-old kid is the real deal. To me, the bigger deal here is what we're talking about regarding the leadoff home runs. That is a much harder thing to do on a regular basis. You can get dongs in different ABs at different parts of the game and get to 5 straight. 3 in a row to start off a game as a kid that age, after he got called up just this year. The Braves are for real. I kind of like watching.
Oh, this is a baseball Mozart. I don't think there's any question about it. As far as the leadoff home runs are concerned, all it says is he could be very useful lower in the order if they choose. That's about all.
So you would prefer him batting 3rd or 4th, so no leadoff the game home runs, but he'd be batting in a more drive-in potential. Flashkey, how about you?
He has 24 RBIs in his last 24 games. And to think about when this kid came up early this year, everyone was talking about him. The hype was huge, and he's lived up to it. That's the most impressive thing.
Sarah Spade.
Yeah, as you mentioned, his home run streak, he's now got 8 in his last 8 games. He's homered in 7 of his last 8. And he's only the 2nd player in modern baseball to have done 3 straight leadoff homers. Those are the kind of stats that you have to open your eyes at, right? There's so many stats in baseball to only be the 2nd one to ever do it. Now, your question was, is this a flash in the pan, or is he going to be a future MVP? I don't think he's on pace to hit 162 home runs.
Right. It wasn't even flash in the pan.
But I think it's going to be great. I
don't think anyone's calling him a flash in the pan because, his credentials and his prospect status were so high. Just the fluky nature of hitting a home run in the first at bat of a game was all I was getting to. I mean, honestly, that pitch location, one of those, was hilarious. That's where we're throwing meatballs down the plate. Yeah. This guy can hit a ball if he's throwing the dugout right now out. Clinton Yates, you want to tell us who you're wearing today?
Yes, the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. Sarah Spain should know who they are, single A affiliate. They've got their ASL Awareness Night coming up on Saturday. Shout out to them.
Well, you look marvelous, and thank you for today's work. Bob Ryan, do you have something
you want to say?
Pariah? You're not a pariah, no, you're just getting a bolt here. Hey, watch Bill and Sarah in Showdown next. Flash, Sarah, Spain, good-looking showdown. The Ben Zobrist ejection yesterday. First, that's the pitch. And here's the K-zone. And here's the argument. And right about here is where, 2 innings later, Zobrist tells Phil Cuzzy, this is why we want electronic strike zones. Did he get his ejections worth, Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, it's Ben Zobrist who usually complains by saying, pardon me, sir, I think that was a bad call. But when are we ever saying the exact words that someone said to an ump to get him tossed? He earned it.
He should have thrown him out a lot earlier. You can't argue balls and strikes. Even the great Ben Zobrist, sorry, Sarah, cannot argue balls and strikes. Just to throw him out earlier. I don't blame him for getting thrown out. But yes, he did get his money's worth.
All right. Well, if I give the point to Sarah here, Bill Plaschke can't argue balls and strikes, so I'm fine. We're moving on. Hurting your thumb in a fantasy draft. Bill, how much trouble is ESPN in with Adam Schefter's tweeting hand and texting hand day to day?
This is real. I'm currently enduring pain in my texting thumb, and I don't text near as much as anyone else, and it's a real thing. I'm having trouble getting my fingers on the keys. I'm serious. My thumb hurts right now.
Yeah, back in the old days of Bill's time, it would have been a huge deal. But now we've got text to talk, which means that he can just tell Siri exactly what he wants to say. Doesn't have to lift a finger or a thumb. So I think he's going to be fine thanks to new technology.
Oh, really? You think that technology works, Sarah Spain? That technology don't speak reality, that's for sure. I'm going to send you a text right now. It's going to not be in any way translatable. Point, game, FaceTime, Bill Plaschke.
I want to give once again cheers to the most must-see thing on television these days, Hard Knocks. Once again, riveting drama. In the case of the Cleveland Browns, riveting drama about how confused and awful the organization is. You see players talking back to coaches. You see confusion and rebellion in coaches' meetings. And now you have Corey Coleman this week walking in, telling the head coach, if you don't like me, want to play me, trade me. And they trade him, their first-round draft pick. The Cleveland Browns are a chaotic organization, and we can see this every week on Hard Knocks. They never should let those cameras into the room. Bad idea, fellas. Bad idea.
It really is incredible knowing things after the fact about the trade, about Callaway's, traffic stops. It's incredible. Guess what, people? We are on a huge break. We're back August 27th. That is a 287.5-hour break. We'll see you then.